Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'd like to thank you all for coming to our, well, it's my first HIP info session and webinar. A couple things to get out of the way. I know we've all been doing probably a lot of online meetings lately, but if you haven't been, then here are some of the rules for this one. For GoToWebinar, you are all muted at this point. Your video and your audio will remain inoperable, but we do have a questions box. So if you have a question, feel free to type it there. We will be having a question Q&A session at the end of our little broadcast after a short presentation, introduction to the program, and a short film that we have for you. So if you have any connection issues, feel free to close down any non-essential programs that you have running in the background. That might give you a little help reserving some of your bandwidth. And also, if you're continuing to have troubles, go ahead and sign out, close it down, and start it back up and join using the same link that you used to get here today. Again, thank you for joining us. Here we go. First off, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ryan O'Connor. I'm the HIP Target Program Project Coordinator for the Whatcom Conservation District, who implements the HIP program. And I'd also like to introduce Emily Hirsch, who has joined, as you can see. And she is also with the Whatcom Conservation District. She is our native plant expert and also our DIY project coordinator for HIP. Also joining us today, later we will be talking with Anthony and Sheree, who were recent DIY program participants and are now ambassadors. To preface this session, I want to let you know that today isn't supposed to give you everything you need to know about HIP. It's just to give you some insights to the program and give you an opportunity to perhaps get inspired by some of the imagery we're going to show you, give you an idea of what some native plants look like, and give you an opportunity to ask us questions. That's not something people usually get to do when they're just going to the website and looking around. So let's get started. I'm going to hand it over to Emily.
Well, Ryan, thanks for that introduction, Ryan. Sorry, I have just sort of a random shot up here on the screen. I think we wanted to talk a little bit about there are two different parts of HIP. Not everyone qualifies for the same BMPs or best management practices. When Ryan says DIY, I am the do-it-yourself native landscaping helper. So to qualify for that side of the program, you are a parcel that is not considered to have a large phosphorus input to the lake, which means you are less than 10,000 square feet of lawn. You are either or creekside or shoreline. So those, if you're not in those three categories, you qualify for the do-it-yourself native landscaping program. And one of the first steps actually to be qualified for that is to take a workshop. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that this is not a DIY workshop. This is just an information session. It's very abbreviated. And so we hope that this might inspire you then to actually sign up for the workshop. And we have an online version available so that we can continue to get people going in the program during this time where we can't quite meet in person yet. One of the things specific to the DIY side of the program is that it is truly do-it-yourself. You would qualify for up to $6,000 in reimbursement, and that is based on the amount of square footage that you decide to convert into the native landscaping. For each square foot, you are reimbursed at $1.30 square foot. And again, at a $6,000 maximum. And so this is truly do it yourself. So you don't get reimbursed for paying someone else to do it. You get reimbursed for materials and some extras, which you can find out more about if you decide to take the workshop. Ryan, do you want to talk about Target?
Yes, thanks, Emily. Thanks for the introduction to the DIY program. I am, again, Ryan O'Connor, the Target Program Coordinator, and the difference between the Target Program and the DIY program is Target properties are the properties around the lake that have the greatest ability to have an improvement in their phosphorus runoff to the lake. They include anybody who is on the shoreline, directly draining to the lake, or if they're on a creek and that creek directly drains to the lake. Other target properties include 10,000 square feet or more of lawn, as those are large sources of phosphorus for our watershed. The reimbursement value is the same at $1.30 per square foot, but you get some other things included as the projects tend to be larger. You have to treat 25% of your treatable area to qualify. That 25% on some properties can be fairly large. There is no cap to the amount of reimbursement. So as long as you're treating that 25% minimum, it's whatever you install and treat on your property is $1.30 per square foot. We have multiple BMPs in the Target program. Native landscaping, Lake Whatcom rain gardens, underground media filter drains, and infiltration trenches and dispersion are the options that we have in the Target program that are available. Other differences in the Target program as opposed to the DIY program are that design and installation by a contractor are covered, as well as materials. So I would come out and give you a little introduction, and we can talk more about that if we go to schedule a site visit. But I think now we will be moving on to a short little video.
Actually, let's do this poll really quickly and see if anyone has been to the website. All right. Okay, so it does look like we have a few people that have not been to the website. So I am thinking let's do a quick website demo, Ryan, if that's something you want.
Sounds like a great idea. Is that, are you on presenter? You want me to do that one?
I got it.
Okay, 10-4.
Maybe. We also want to say thanks to everyone. This is both Ryan and my first attempt at a go-to webinar presentation. So appreciate everyone's, there we go. Appreciate everyone's understanding of some clunkiness, but we'll get it on here. So let me find my screen with the website. Shoot. Okay. Maybe I'm not the one to do this. Let's see.
I have it up, Emily. Why don't you just hand it over to me and I can pull it up for you.
Sounds good. Back to you, Ryan.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So hopefully everybody can see my screen now. What I'd like to focus on is most of you said that you have been to the website, and what I'm hoping you did while you were there at the website is put your address in here. I believe if you put your address in, you see that drop down there? All these are addresses that have been determined to be eligible in the watershed. So you don't even need to put your street name in there. Usually you can say, and your address could pop up. And when you do that, with a property, what it will do is it will pull up what you are eligible for. So when it says congratulations, you do it yourself native landscaping. That is what that address qualifies for. And the Lake Whatcom Homeowner Incentive Program offers technical and financial support. So this is where it takes you. If you are a target property, it takes you to a different screen. And that screen drops down a number of BMPs that are eligible to your specific property. So right now, these are some of the sheets that will pop up on the website once you say this is for a creekside property. And so these are some of the BMPs that might be eligible to you if you are a creekside property owner and willing to move forward with the program. So this one is native landscaping, and it lays out the details about our native landscaping HIP BMP. BMP stands for Best Management Practice, which is what we call all of our installations for reducing phosphorus in the lake. Another one would be an underground pollution filter or an infiltration trench. But you get the idea. When you punch in your address, it really gives you, it really sets you off on the right foot for understanding what might be possible on your property. And also, it's a perfect place to set up a site visit with either Emily or myself, depending on which program you are eligible for.
Actually, DIY site visits don't sign up online.
Okay.
You'll directly reach out to me after you complete your workshop.
There you go. Straight from Emily, our DIY coordinator. I would trust her information. So now I think we are ready to show you a little video that we prepared about native landscaping, and maybe give you some ideas about, or give you some insights about native landscaping that you might not have had before. I'm going to showcase some plants, and here we go.
Did you hit play, Ryan?
Working on it.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ryan O'Connor.
I'm Emily Hirsch. We're here from the Whatcom Conservation District. We're here to talk to you a little bit about the Lake Whatcom Homeowner Incentive Program and give you some ideas for some things that you might be able to achieve in your backyard with the program.
So let's go take a look at some native plants.
So you might ask, what exactly is a native plant? Well, a native plant is one that existed in the region prior to the arrival of European settlers. That's generally the cutoff because it's assumed that when these people came to North America, they brought different plants and seeds from their own country because they liked them or they were specifically looking for a particular plant. Maybe they didn't know what they were going to find. Native plants have evolved with native fauna. That makes them particularly suited to support a variety of wildlife. Native plants have a lot of different structure, which is one of the elements that wildlife need. A lot of native plants support specific habitat or support specific wildlife species. Some butterflies can only lay their eggs on certain plants. Think about a monarch and a milkweed. When the caterpillar hatches, it can only eat that type of plant. If it's not laid on the right plant, it will starve. That means by planting native species, you are supporting wildlife and creating a space where you can attract wildlife to your home. So native plant demonstration gardens are actually a really great place for you to get an idea of things that you want to incorporate into your landscape, but they're also a really good place for you to decide what you don't like. And I show this plant here. It's the Thimbleberry. It's a native raspberry, has delicious, yummy berries. But Thimbleberry is a plant that doesn't like to stay in its place. So when you plant it, you can actually really expect that it's going to spread. And so what you see behind me here is a nice clump of Thimbleberry, but it's moving all around. And so it is spread from where we've put it to anywhere from It's running five feet away. So it is starting to move around. So if a nice tidy garden is what you're after, Thimbleberry, things like rose might not be the plants that would work the best for you. Nootka rose is a lovely wild rose that will bless you with fragrant pink flowers in the springtime. It is an open flower, which is really inviting to bees. It's not really the best choice for a small landscape or one that you'd like to keep tidy because it does tend to spread. But if you're planning a large project or you just are looking for that natural feel, Nootka rose might be the plant for you. This is subalpine spirea. The reason I like this plant a lot is not only is it beautiful with these pink fuzzy flowers on top, but this is a shrub that won't get very tall. So if you're concerned about maintaining a view, this is a great option for keeping things low. So today we are in for a treat because the red columbine is blooming in its glory. Columbine is a plant in the buttercup family, and hummingbirds are really going to be attracted to this plant due to its color. Washington has 3 species of Oregon grape: tall, medium, and short, so you get a lot of variety in that one type of plant. All are evergreen and have a beautiful spike of yellow flowers in the spring. The leaves are compound and they're comprised of a bunch of little leaves that look like holly leaves. The leaves turn reddish in the winter. They stay evergreen and on the plant, but they turn reddish, and they're accompanied by a group of dark purple berries that make it a really attractive plant for your landscape, not only in the spring where they're fragrant and beautiful, but also in the fall while they remain colorful. Salal is a common understory plant of our Pacific Northwest forests. It tends to do better in shade. You can plant it in the sun, but it's going to require a little bit of extra care. It can be really slow to get started, but once it does, it will start growing after a couple of years a little bit more vigorously. It'll put on more growth to get larger. Salal is a plant that you could prune if you wanted. It can get as tall as 3 feet, but often won't, especially in a sunny site. Mock orange is a multi-stem deciduous shrub that produces really fragrant white flowers that have a citrusy scent. It grows pretty quickly and it actually takes well to pruning. We'll show you an example of how that might look in a bit, but it's a great plant for dry, sunny sites. You get that fragrant flower, and it is actually a nectar plant for a lot of butterfly species.
When homeowners are thinking of installing native landscaping, one thing I like them to keep in mind is that when first installed, the plants will be small, the mulch will be visible, and it's going to take some maintenance to get them going. The plants we've seen at Nancy's show garden today are 3 to 4 growing seasons old and are well established.
So we get a lot of questions about maintenance and how to deal with weeds and so on. One thing is really important to know is that while your native landscaping is low maintenance, it's not no maintenance. So a great way to help deal with weed pressure is to plant these spreading ground covers. Kinnikinnick here is a great evergreen ground cover, so it provides you that protection year round. And then this coastal strawberry is another one. It tends to be evergreen in our area. It's pretty vigorous spreader, and so by spreading and covering the ground surface, weeds can't, the seeds can't germinate. So that's going to help in the long run as your garden becomes more established and reduce some of that maintenance need. You know, a lot of people say that you can't prune native plants, but in nature, deer and elk actually do a lot of that work for the plants. And I like to show this plant here. This is a mock orange, and normally this plant might be really tall and multi-stemmed, but you can see all these little cut bits here, and that's where a deer has come along and munched on the ends. And so they have actually kept this more sprawling type shrub into in a little bit more of a tidy order here. So you can prune some native plants if the wild shapes don't appeal to you. You can keep them in check by pruning.
If you have a turned over tree in your yard, this is a great way to incorporate it into a landscape. Large woody debris such as root balls and even boulders like this are part of natural stream systems all around the Pacific Northwest. Several HIP BMPs such as infiltration trenches, rain gardens, and MFDs or media filter drains are installed subsurface or below the ground. Wooden chip paths are a great way to access your native landscaping, but a gravel path can also be an infiltration trench or a media filter drain. This is how you can incorporate one of those features into a native landscaping and get two features in one. Any soil excavated during the installation of your subsurface features can be replaced, mounded like this, mulched, and then planted. It can add a lot of topography to a normally flat landscape. This is an example of a dry creek bed. This is a common feature integrated into HIP projects. It can be used as just a natural sloping feature to exhibit rock, or it can be used as an outflow for infiltration trenches, rain gardens, and media filter drains. It's a great way to add some texture to your landscape.
Thanks for joining us today at NC's Native Plant Demonstration Garden. We hope what we've shown you has been inspiring and has given you some ideas for things to incorporate into your HIP project.
Feel free to visit us online at www.lakewhatcomhip.org, and we'll see you out there.
All right. So that was a nice little video we put together out at NC's show garden. Are we ready, Emily, to talk to Sheree and Anthony, or do we want to open the Q&A?
Yeah, let's introduce Anthony and Sheree Quattrochi. I hope I said your name correctly. And I'm hoping that I'm going to unmute you and just give you a quick chance to maybe describe your experience going through the workshop and working with myself and going through the program. And then I think I've got some photos of your project, which everyone, it turned out gorgeous. I'll just say that right now. So without further ado, I'm going to unmute you, Anthony and Sheree. And we also would like to invite anyone to just punch in questions into that question box. Anthony and Sheree are also here to answer questions that you might have you might want to specifically address to someone that's gone through and gone through the program. So you are now unmuted, Anthony and Sheree. Thank you for joining us. You might need to unmute yourself on your end.
Chris, now?
I can hear you.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Sorry about that. Thanks for having us. We just bought our property 2 years ago, and we're also new to Bellingham. And the property that we bought was pretty much a blank slate. It was just a lawn, absolutely nothing going on with it. And one of our neighbors referred us to the HIP program. So I went to the workshop, and it was amazing and very thorough, and initially pretty overwhelming and intimidating, but actually it was you guys and staff, they answered our questions very quickly, and you guys are very thorough, and it was just a great resource to have you guys help us out throughout the entire process. And we never felt like we were doing this alone. So we really appreciated the team taking the time out to answer our questions and to come out to our site a few times to help us out and offer us some suggestions. And ultimately, we're really thrilled with how well it looks, as well as it being part of something that helps our environment overall. That's us, yeah, on the left, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Anthony, I've pulled out the image that I had, and you can see up here. I don't know if you can see my red dot circling around that cool slope. That's not quite a before. That's sort of in progress. The stone they used as edging material for the mulch, and then you can see that photo at the bottom is that same slope, which was kind of rocky looking and probably difficult to mow. So it was really an ideal spot to convert from kind of a lawn that was hard to maybe take care of and into what's going to develop into a really, I think, beautiful little bit of native landscaping.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that at first we thought it was kind of an eyesore. In fact, the grass, I think it essentially stopped growing. It was just a dirt kind of slope, and it went from, you know, being an eyesore. We hope it becomes more of a feature of the landscape.
I think you guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You did a really great job. It looks so good. A couple of other, just to point out, these other photos. So in the upper right of your screen, you can see an area that, again, the grass isn't really growing very well. It's kind of a slope. I think that was probably another challenge for that particular homeowner. So again, an ideal spot to convert to landscaping. And then, of course, in the after picture there, you can see the mulch. And one of the ways we recommend keeping mulch on a slope, you can see the Quattrochi's rock. That did a really great job, but it doesn't have to be that elaborate. It can also just be some boards. Could be some, if you have some branches in your yard that have fallen out of a tree, or a tree has fallen over, something like that could be used. And those things are really nice because they really give the space a more natural feel. We also have that lower set of photos where you're looking at just a really complete transformation of a corner of a yard that was just all grass, and it is now, you know, it's turned into something hopefully a little less maintenance intensive in terms of having to mow it all year, or not all year, but when the grass is growing. And then once those plants become really established, watering requirements really do drop off quite a bit. And yeah, it's a pretty cool transformation on a lot of projects like that. So do we have any questions out there that we can answer for anyone? We've got a couple of prepared slides that we thought we could share, but if you have a question, we'd love to see you type it into the question box. Ryan and I are here for our individual sides, and then Anthony and Sheree could take some questions as well if anyone has any.
Right. Okay, we have a question from Wendy Rice. Can you hear me okay, Emily?
Yes, I can. Hi, Wendy.
Wendy has a question that says, do you help us figure out deer-resistant plants? Oh, the deer-resistant plants.
Great question. And so I would love to give you a big old list of plants that deer won't eat, but we all know that that's a hard bill to sort of fill. There are a couple of things that are less palatable to deer, things that smell, things that have tough, waxy leaves, but no plant, unfortunately, is truly deer resistant. Deer don't read lists, especially in the springtime when the growth is really soft and green. The fawns don't know any better, so the little ones are going to take a bite out of anything. We do have some things that we can suggest. There are a couple that are better than others, but the slide I'm showing right now, hopefully you're seeing it. The DIY program will reimburse you for temporary deer protection, and I've shown a couple of options for that. There's Sheree and Anthony's project again up there in the upper left under the wildlife. So they have used some posts and some bird netting to create a barrier around a row of plants. In some cases, you might individually create a cage around plants. The lower photos are some unique and interesting ways that I've seen some people construct some wildlife protection. The bottom two in the corners, those homeowners actually had issue with rabbits, and so they were kind of keeping their protection small. The lower center I thought was really clever because those boxes are cool, but what a lot of construction you have to do. And in the center there, she just used tomato cages and wrapped it with the bird netting, which I thought was really, really clever. And then in the upper right, that you can see that heavy strapping. Well, that's maybe not as visually pleasing to a lot of people. Some feedback that I've gotten in the past is that that fine plastic netting can actually capture birds. And so one of the ways she got around that was to use that heavier strapping. And I think it's easy for, real easy for deer to see it, and it kind of funnels them away from the plants that you want to protect. And really, to keep plants, you really want to get those plants established. And once they're established, they can take that pressure a little bit more. I did show an example in the video of a mock orange that had been deer pruned. That plant's healthy and thriving, and it can tolerate that little bit of nipping off of those tips and will regrow. But it's in those first couple of years when the plants haven't really established that really strong root system that they're most vulnerable to the wildlife predation. Great question. It's a tough one, but it's a good one.
Okay, next question comes from Gary Gilbreth. Welcome, Gary. Hello. His question is that video you showed earlier available online? And I believe we will be posting that and get a link to you. We can send it via email or send an announcement as a follow-up to all of you who are attending our webinar tonight, and you can review it later. Or
And
better yet, you can.
We are recording this entire webinar as well. So the video can be available individually, and then the entire webinar tonight will also be available.
Yes. Next question, Wendy again. Wendy Rice, where do we purchase native plants?
Oh, good question. So I wish I thought about doing a slide for this, but I didn't do it. So most nurseries in the area will sell some native plants. We do in our county have a couple of Pacific Northwest native nurseries. And I say that because to be reimbursable for a HIP project, you have to have a native plant that's native only to Washington, not only to Washington, but it has to be native to Washington state. So we do have a couple of nurseries that specialize in natives, regional natives. One's called Fourth Corner Nursery, and they are in Bellingham, but out in the county. They're a wholesale nursery that can help supply folks with native plants. There's a retail nursery called Plantus Nativa that's in Bellingham. They have a variety of regional natives as well. Most of them that they sell are potted plants. The wholesale nursery that I mentioned, Fourth Corner, they specialize mostly in bare root plants. Those types of plants are only going to be available in the springtime. We also, our conservation district, as do most other conservation districts in the state, have a spring native plant sale where we sell those bare root plants at a really good price. So our district does it, and again, Skagit, Snohomish, King, most of the districts in the state, I believe, hold a plant sale. And then there's actually quite a few native plant nurseries throughout Western Washington. The Washington Native Plant Society keeps a database of them, but we do have two year-round local suppliers, as well as the opportunity in the spring to take advantage of conservation district sales as well.
Okay, next question. Great question there. This one comes from Timberly McKinley. Do you come out and help plan project ideas, or is the homeowner responsible for all design? I'm assuming that is a DIY question, but just in case it's a target question, for the target program, as I mentioned before, I would come out and do a feasibility and give you the background of the program and the process. And then I would also do what's called a feasibility narrative and map. And that basically, some of the items that would be included would be, where your downspouts come down, the surfaces of all your hard surfaces and grass, patios, utilities, things of that nature. And once that's completed, I would give you that along, and it would give you an idea of what your reimbursement budget is. Then you can, because the target program pays for design and construction or install, as well as materials, you can go out and find yourself a designer off of our, we do have a list of HIP certified designers and contractors. Some folks do just design, some do design and installation, and some do both. And so it's a good resource. And all of these lists, whether it be suppliers of materials or the vendor lists or the lists of the designers and contractors, are all on the HIP website. And we can post that link. So, but if it's a DIY, I can hand it off to Emily for that half of that question.
Right. So if it's a DIY, you're going to get a lot of information at the workshop. So the workshop will actually give you the tools needed to design your landscape, give you some tips on how to place plants, the types of plants, the types of kind of information gathering you can do on your site. But you also do get a one-on-one site visit with myself, and I am also, so I can help you through that part of the process as well, either with plant selection or helping you locate what makes the most sense for your landscape. I will help you with maps. We can talk about plant layout and design as well. So the DIY program doesn't pay for someone like a landscape designer to come and do it, but it does qualify you for assistance through the conservation district in those areas. And I inadvertently changed, I just want to touch on the screen that you're seeing right now, because I inadvertently changed it without thinking. And this is we talked about deer a little while ago, and the Department of Fish and Wildlife has a website that actually talks about how to live with deer. One thing to always just remember about deer is that you have to be adaptable, because they are. What works one day won't work in a week, or what works down the street for your neighbor might not work for you. So just remember that you always have to be kind of changing it up and be willing to adapt as needed. And so this particular website gives quite a bit of information about facts and the species that are around. Obviously, we're trying not to attract deer, so probably maybe read those for things not to do. But this preventing conflicts section gives you some ideas on how to construct those types of deer fences, things to think about before you build one. They actually have pages like this on all kinds of species. So I think there's gophers and moles in here, squirrels. It's a really nice resource to use if you've got some issues with wildlife. I think raccoons is another one. So I just wanted to touch on that because I pulled it up. And we know that deer are a big issue in the city limits of Bellingham, pretty much. So.
High densities out in the county as well. One thing I would follow up with that design conversation is for target program properties. If you're doing, say, native landscaping in the target program, you don't necessarily need a designer. And I don't go away as after our initial site visit. I'm there every step away to help you through the permitting process and through the construction, and helping you navigate some of the issues that might pop up. So we're here to support you in through your project, and we want it to be successful. So no question is too small. Reach out to us at any time, and I'm constantly getting phone calls from people about things that may not even be HIP related, but it usually ends up helping them out in their own backyard. So.
That's actually a really great point that I think that we didn't really touch on here, is that in order to qualify for these reimbursements, you do have to apply for a permit. There's a different kind of permit for target and DIY. And as Ryan said, we are here to absolutely help you in pretty much whatever way you need help with. If you need help filling out the permit, we help. Like I said, if you need help making a map or measuring your areas, we'll help. Plant selection will help. So there is a lot of assistance that comes along with the program. We won't plant your plants, or spread your mulch, at least not in DRY. But,
not in Target either, actually. Yeah. Any more questions out there? I'm seeing a pretty empty question box here. One question I actually always get, I get quite frequently, is I'll be doing a site visit, and part of that site visit is after I tell you about the program and the process and some of the procedures and the paperwork. One thing I always get is, well, we were thinking about doing a fence here, a permanent fence. Or maybe we were thinking about leveling out this yard and putting in a retaining wall. Certain things are just not eligible through HIP. HIP is strictly for installing the BMPs that improve water quality. And so not saying that you can't do those projects if they're going to be in conformance with the local codes, but we tend to keep those projects separate from HIP. So either maybe level out your yard and build your wall, get that all permitted separate, and then we can come back and maybe help you with getting rid of the lawn on top with some native landscaping or rain garden. So that's a common question we get.
So we did get another question from Gary Gilbreth asking about where that native plant demonstration garden is. That native plant demonstration garden that we had in the video was at the Nooksack Salmon Enhancement Association, and we thank them for letting us come out several times and wander around with our cameras and talking. I think at this time it is closed to the public, unfortunately. They're a private entity, and normally it would be a public space, but currently I think that it is closed to the public. There are some other demonstration gardens in the area. Well, there's one in Skagit County, but you'd have to check to see if they're open. It's at the WSU Extension offices and research station down there in Mount Vernon. That one is a really cool one. It has been around for years and years, so those plants are very well developed, and that was one that I learned the idea that you might find something that you don't really like. I sent someone down there and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want that mock orange, it gets huge. And so that one is a really nice one. It's very well signed, like most of the plants have name tags and signs on them. But again, I don't know if, unfortunately, if they are open at this time either. A great option, I tell lots of people to go to the nurseries and look at the plants there, especially Plantus nativa. They are a retail nursery, and they have a lot of different sizes of plants, from tiny little plants in a 4-inch pot to 5-gallon trees and shrubs. And so that's a really great place to potentially go take a look at what native plants might look like.
One thing I want to touch on, because of our current situation with COVID-19, safety in the HIP program is our top priority for all of you out there. So if you do schedule a site visit, we have developed protocols. We are wearing masks, and we can forward those protocols to you, and you can look them over. And we just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with us coming out if we are going to schedule a site visit. We have done some virtual site visits with folks, or gone to a site and called while the folks were inside and talked to them on the phone, and they walked us around the yard, and we did our part. So we're willing to be flexible, but that's a priority for us, is your safety. So we did get another question from Timberly McKinley. Is rainwater catchment like barrels under downspouts included in the program? On the Target side, rain barrels are what are called a supplementary BMP. So rain barrels can be reimbursable if they are in line with a HIP BMP. So say you were to reroute your downspouts to a rain barrel that is used to water a large area of native landscaping that you're installing right next to it. That's a possibility for that sort of thing. You want to take the DIY side on that, Emily?
It's very much the same. If you're using it as a temporary irrigation to water your native landscaping, it would be reimbursable.
Okay. All right, well, we are coming up on time. Any last minute questions for us? You're welcome, Timberly. I hope some of you are target folks and we can get out there and see you in the field. If not, you should be giving Emily a call. And all of our information is on the HIP website. A good suggestion is to go to the website and put your address in there and choose it from the drop down, and it will walk you through the steps and where you need to go. Thank you, Wendy. We're super excited to see you as well.
Hey, and before everyone goes, I just wanted to throw out another quick poll and see how you might be considering a project. Is it going?
Yes.
Oh, super.
Looks like we have 75% there.
Still getting a few votes coming in.
Yeah, they're thinking about it.
Okay.
About 30 seconds left to put in a final poll answer there.
All right. Okay. Well, I think we'll close it down. It looks like no one said not likely. We like to hear that. So I hope that what you saw tonight was something that got you inspired and is maybe get you really thinking about giving us a holler and either going on an online workshop, which you would be given some links to the videos that we've got going on prepared and some of the binder materials. It's so far it's kind of been a really smooth program. We actually launched it just at the beginning of this year, really got that going, and have had several people sign up for that, and I've been working with a few of those folks out there to take advantage of the, getting a permit and so on. So yeah, don't hesitate. You're not ever obligated. We want you to move forward, but happy to come out and have a talk and see where if the program is a fit for you. And
I would say one final thing for the target program is just that this is an incentive program that is totally voluntary. So I have site visits. I will go out, and it takes time to think about it, and life happens too. So but we keep with you and we stay in contact. And if it's not tomorrow you want to do a project, but maybe in the fall you want to do a project, that's perfectly fine too. We work around your schedule. So that's all I have.
I just want to say thanks again to Anthony and Sheree for participating. We really appreciate having someone that has gone through the program and had real life experience. And again, they were great to work with. And just want to say thanks to you guys for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you very much. All righty, well, guess that ends our info session webinar for HIP, Lake Whatcom Homeowner Incentive Program. We really hope some of you get interested and excited and schedule a site visit. Go check us out, www.lakewhatcomhip.org. And have a good night.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.